Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. Welcome to the playoffs edition of EUphoria. I am Quickshot, joined by Caedrel and Nymaera. You'll obviously notice Dracos is not here. He's not well at the moment, so I hope he gets soon better.
I miss you.
Gets soon better. Wow, you can tell I'm a bit nervous and anxious for this. Definitely not a podcaster, but very excited to be here. Very excited to talk about, first of all, wrapping up week 8. It's been a little while since we've all been here and chatted. Then we're going to look ahead to playoffs, talk about each of the teams, talk about the matchups, and give you some spicy predictions. And before we jump into it, it's been a couple weeks since we've been together.
You missed something, Trevor, on the podcast land. You got to say we're available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud.
Oh, well done. You see, do you know the worst part is? It's on the script in front of me, and I didn't read it. I am so out of practice.
It's okay.
So I'm going to change the topic very briefly. Happy birthday!
Thank you.
You got a tattoo. How was your break?
It was good. So my birthday, I started streaming. I'm doing a subathon. I'm still going. The stream's currently on at home right now. I'm sitting in the EUphoria podcast, but it's currently streaming G2 RNG 2018.
It's being babysat.
That is amazing.
And I'll get back and continue.
Show off the tattoo. As a fellow tattooed person, very, very impressed.
It's got a lot of things, small things, like there's a little bit of Morse code up here that says Caedrel, which is cool.
Oh, that's really cool.
There's a Halo logo, which was one of my favorite games ever. There's just a balance between like life and time and things like this.
That's
it's very
really
deep.
cool.
I think the cool thing about to my tattoo, I think, is like it's open to interpretation. When you look at it, you can think of whatever you want.
Also,
art.
as somebody that has a lot of tattoos just have to have meaning to you because you're the one that lives with them. I have Orabesh, which is the Star Wars language from Coruscant, written around an Imperial logo. So I've got some pretty nerdy
and I have no tattoos.
Alex, how was your break?
It wasn't really a break. Every time I schedule in some free time, it gets eaten up by various things. NLC is still happening. I had a 5-game series happen over there, which is really cool.
Yes.
So that's
I tuned in once, and XL Academy team got knocked out when they were supposed to win the whole league.
That's the one
Masters.
thing.
What the hell happened there?
Strange things happened where they were locked into top 2, and then they weren't because of the results in the last week. So they were like so close to clinching it, and then they got knocked out in the first round. So
NLC are trendsetters. I've been seeing a lot of the picks that NLC are running being copied by the LCK. Just blatant copying.
So when you see NukeDuck doing weird stuff, it's actually because M&S and their academy team is doing it
I
first.
love it. Okay, let's bring us back. Of course, I want to start by just rounding out week 8. Unfortunately, I didn't get to cast week 8. Somebody close to me tested positive for COVID and I was showing symptoms. So I'm gutted because the weekend was like incredible. The first game, SK needed to win that to keep all of our like playoff chances, the foldy sheet opportunities alive.
Yeah,
it wasn't going to happen. There's no way it should happen, but it did.
The entire thing could have ended in one game with just SK losing to Rogue.
But that's of course because I think by that point XL had not locked yet. Mad and Vitality were still fighting for the final slots, right?
Yeah,
and
top
2 was also up
and top 2 up
yeah.
for grabs, right?
Yeah, top 2 was up for grabs as well. But yeah, SK beat Rogue, so that kept them alive in the playoffs race. Mad beat Vitality. XL lost to G2. So day 1, no one was locked. Then you go to day 2. XL beat SK. They're locked. Great. But then Mad won and Vitality lost again. So now there's a tie almost, kind of like where if Mad win, it's over. But luckily for Vitality, they had Astralis in the last day of the week. They won that game.
The early game got a bit weird.
It's so funny as well. Luckily for them, Astralis, the only wins they've picked up in the most recent. Yeah. Based on how the games have played, you do like on paper, yes, lucky, but based on results, you panic a little.
And I think the sad reality is like Mad won their game against BDS.
And then it kind of sealed the deal, right?
They had
Mad beat BDS after they were already knocked out, so they were 8-10. So if Vitality had lost that game, they were in.
Yep.
So it's a bit bittersweet.
But obviously, so I was sat there on day 1 watching because I knew I was going to be casting on day 2 thinking, oh my gosh, these games are going to mean absolutely nothing. Completely bombed out on this one. So I sat there with Asheen, who obviously came in, and we were just so happy that day 1 went the way it did with all the upsets because it gave us some great games.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? How it's always like the LEC always delivers. You know, you look at other regions about playoffs. I mean, the LCK is a bit of an exception this time when they had a tiebreaker on Sunday for like a seeding in playoffs, but we always have that one last day to decide everything.
What was that thing? I'm trying to remember. For a few seasons now, it comes down to like Super Week. Comes out 8 weeks of games. Every team's playing 16, 17, 18. Got that hashtag. Hashtag every game counts. Every game counts.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
It really did. Once again, the bigger thing for me was that when you looked at how those games played out, it almost created more questions than gave me answers.
It's true, because Rogue lost to SK.
Yes.
And then it was just like Misfits beat Fnatic, who Fnatic just threw the entire game.
Yes.
And then G2 was playing against Rogue, but then Rogue beat G2, but Rogue
Vitality lost
to
a
SK.
bunch more games once again. Like, this was supposed to be the swan song. When I looked at week 8, I was expecting a Vitality 3-0. I added like a profound stomp, like, we belong in playoffs and we're here to play. I did not get that from that team. So, like,
Nope.
it really opens the door to the conversation we're going to have later about these teams' performances and expectations. And, you know, what can we glean, if anything?
And
Vitality are confident. They came into like that week and they just picked something they picked in week 1 or something, didn't they? They just blasted out the Yasuo Dynamic, which is crazy. That you would think that after 8 weeks of practice, you know, they found something, you know. But week 1, they play against Mad Lions, funny enough, who they then played against Mad Lions week 8 and picked the same thing from week 1, which is just, I don't know.
It's bold. It's bold. It's bold.
You look at
personal.
You look at SK and Mad as well, who are really kind of like the primary suspects in why this week was so weird. They really stepped up. You know, Mad Lions came out with that 3-0. Yes, one of them was against Stralis, another one was against BDS. They are lower tier teams. But them to step up to the plate and say, you know, we're still in the
way that they played those games was great.
SK getting that first upset, and then of course upsetting Misfits in the last day of the split too. Like, it showed that kind of, we don't have this cliff edge of playoffs and then not playoffs. It was actually very close across the board.
Yeah, but I think we've got our 6 teams. I think these are the right 6 teams for playoffs.
Yep.
Like, nothing to take away
when you
from,
look
like,
at the big picture as well, right? Over the course of multiple weeks.
Nothing to take away like against like SK and Mad. But if they had made it over Vitality and XL, I think the playoffs might be weaker overall in the long term. I think we've got solid teams here. You've got almost like title holders in every team. You know, XL have Mickey, Vitality have Perks, Rogue have, you know, no one just yet. I think they're gonna get it, but they're still our first place team, right?
Again,
Misfits similarly, but G2 and Fnatic,
somehow,
of course,
some
like
way.
there's a lot of experience, and I feel like Europe's in this kind of phase where a lot of players are going from top teams to other teams. You know, G2 is disbanded. The 2019 G2 is like gonna
G2
spread
versus
itself.
Fnatic, and who do you even look at? Like,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You've spread all the Dragon Balls
it's the Argo
all around.
problem where like,
Pause. Before we go on, I believe that we need to do the EUphoria Week 8 MVP. And as this is your show, you get the honors.
So it's funny because normally I have Dracos's and then we have a discussion, you know, his opinion will kind of matter. Or we have a guest.
His problem. He's not here. He doesn't get to discuss.
Or we have a guest who's like swaying the vote. And it's like, well, I say, you know, I think Malrank's good and Upset's like, Resort.
Okay. So the question is then, as this is your show and we are your guests, are you going to have a discussion?
No, it's unanimous vote. It's Elyoya. He wins. Even though it's bittersweet because he was knocked out of playoffs, I think Elyoya is still a top tier jungler. I mean, he was our best jungler last year. I still think even though they finished like 7th or 8th now, 7th, I believe, he's still...
Mad Lions 7th, 8th and 10th.
He's still easily a top 4 jungler in the league right now. I mean, the last week he played like Poppy into that Vitality Madman composition, had a great game.
He finally facilitated again. He's been kind of like struggling to fill that role.
Last pick as well. Give last pick to Elyoya. The Viego game was fantastic. I think Mad Lions went 3-0 across the board. Elyoya was a big factor as well for that. I think Unforgiven was 2. Rieger got 3 games of TF, which, I mean... It's kind of like putting a plaster on the wound, you know. We got TF, it's fixed. Eventually that plaster will fall off if it's banned, but it wasn't. 3 games in a row he takes those. So yeah, Elyoya.
Okay, there you go.
Week 8, MVP.
I'll give you a second to think about it. Can you give Dracos any work for like EUphoria MVPs for playoffs weeks? Or how's that going to work?
I think we should do them. Every bracket. Every bracket should someone should get
round
an
one,
MVP.
Well, look, whatever you decide is law because he's not here, and I was put in his seat. And also, when it comes to the XL bet, as soon as Dracos is better, he will deliver on that. We spoke about this before off air. He has to write a song.
He has to write a song. I think he's got it written. He's going to start singing it for us. I think there's going to be some like cameos of Mickey playing the piano maybe, or me in the background doing like a little dance or something.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be scuffed as hell, but that's the funny part. But the funny thing about this bet was we made it before Mickey joined XL, and I said they were going to make playoffs with ADVN. Luckily for me, Mickey came in like the hero I need but don't deserve with a Superman cape on. And he was like, I won't let you sing a song.
It's actually Batman, but I'll help you with the nerd stuff. I'll keep you down with the kids.
Well, it's funny because I watched Batman a couple of weeks ago with...
How do you not know the most famous quote?
I've gone around to that.
Robert Pattinson. It was a good film. Have you seen the Batman?
Not yet.
Very long. I think
3
it's
hours.
3 hours.
Yeah, I've heard. But that doesn't bother me. I'm into this.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Okay,
the worst part is going to the bathroom is a...
Okay, on that note, since we've been talking about impactful plays, let's turn our attention to All-Pro. We're going to take a look at the first All-Pro team, then take a look second and third. Let's start just gut reactions. Nymaera, I mean, All-Pro 1, when you look Rogue up, Rogue top, Fnatic bot, and V2 mid.
So I think there was a bit of a... So I think the one thing which might be in contention is, Malrang is first All-Pro, particularly after the last couple of weeks when Rogue started getting a little bit exposed, particularly around Malrang overextending a little bit and getting punished for that. But remember, this is for the entirety of the split.
All 8 weeks, yeah.
So recency bias aside, I mean, Malrang just blew so many teams out of the water with the style of play this split. And I think that across, I mean, we'll see the other teams too in a bit. I think I think all of the players who are on these teams, I would have had them there in some order.
I agree with you there. The 15 representatives did not surprise me. I was a little surprised at VTO actually winning, like All Pro 1. I would have thought, Lost and Humanoid probably would have been above him. I know. I think I put Humanoid first, if I recall correctly. Yep. So that was a bit of a shock to me. But again, like impact play, like the ability to 1v9 so many games. I'm not shocked, but I thought it would be lower.
You have two little kind of different mid laners here where you can vote for either, I think, Humanoid and VTO, where you've got VTO on one end where his team is like underperforming or they're behind or he's always facing a deficit where he has to crawl it all back. And to the eye test, it looks fantastic because it's flashy, it's great, he makes amazing plays. And the reality is he does do a lot for the team, whereas Fnatic is a bit more different where you've got Humanoid with very stable lanes, very good early game, which was kind of weak in the first couple of weeks with it, Razork struggling. But then eventually picked it up. Humanoid is, from what we heard as well, behind the scenes, micromanaging his whole team. Hylissang said it, Upset said it, everyone said it. That the second he joined, the mid game, everyone listened to Humanoid. So a lot of the intangibles we can't see from the outside. I think VTO looks a lot more flashy, pop off, and is definitely a mid laner to watch because he's like the next
clutch player for sure.
He's the clutch player. That's a good word to use. He's the next generation. You've got the Caps perks, you've got the Humanoid Larson, now you've got the VTO, right? Who's next after that? He is the next generation, right?
Yeah.
But Humanoid,
would you say he's in a generation of his own? Would you put anyone alongside him? Because if you've got like these,
I think we had this conversation, didn't we, about like the rookie class. EU has always produced mids, but they normally come in pairs. There's normally a couple of new names.
Always in two,
right?
But who is the master and who is the apprentice?
Second, unless they come in summer. Maybe they come in summer.
Also true.
I personally voted for Humanoid because of his raw laning and his raw like prowess and mechanics and fights. It felt like the way he moved around the map, his mid game was insane. But I mean, seeing VTO there, I'm not surprised whatsoever. He's also definitely.
What's your opinion on top laners? When we look at Odo winning it all, I think from what I've seen from the public conversation, huge amounts of debate and discussion. I think around the jungle and mid, right, and a lot of opinion shared. But I feel like top was a little bit more silent, a little bit simpler to read, maybe.
It's interesting because the way G2 play it's all for top, right? Yeah. Broken Blade carries, everyone resources Broken Blade, Jace, Akshan, some kind of carry top that gets ahead. And if it works, it's great. If it doesn't, the map just falls apart. Odo Amne's just been a bit more of, I can do anything. He's played Akshan. He's also played Akshan without any resources. Leave him on a weak side, he's still ahead. He's played tanks, he's played carries, he's counterpicked, he's blind picked, he's done absolutely everything. So I think in terms of raw flexibility, I think Odo Amne is definitely...
On a personal level, it's been great to see Odo both be bitter and happy at the same time.
I think I think fan perception is saying, well, if Odo Amne is our best top going to internationals, we might get smashed. Because if you look at Worlds last year, what Khan did to Odo in that Jax Graves matchup, some of the games he struggled. And the reality is, maybe, we'll see what happens.
Do you think it's the same level, though?
Exactly.
When I look at Odo last year and Odo this year, I don't know. Maybe it's a team around him. Maybe, right?
I mean, also, if you're going to judge it by how Rogue did at Worlds last year, I've got to remember that Rogue had a couple of off-the-rift issues going into that tournament, and I think that people are going to let that skew their perception. I do think that the LEC is lacking in out-and-out carry Goomba Stomp top laners, but it's not like they don't have an ability to play out.
Trying.
Well, and that's why I voted. Yeah. I mean, they're also, that G2 are the only team that are really trying to enable.
Can we take a look at the second and third All-Pro teams as well, just so we can get the graphic up and just reference some of the other players? Because, like I said, I think all 15 not huge surprises here, but, G2 obviously sitting Broken Blade and Yankos on the second All-Pro. Targamas was a bit of a surprise to me, and Targamas Patrick as well. I think there was some contention on the third slot, but when the points came into it, you could make pretty much defendable arguments for I think Neon and Patrick were big debates in the bottom one.
See, I would have loved to vote for Neon, but then again, over the whole split, I feel like Neon had some very weak games.
A tale of two coins, right? Because the second half of Spring, he actually played the game. The first half of Spring, not showing up a huge amount.
I know you have certain opinions of mid laners playing TF and kind of getting away with some holes in their play. I feel like AD carries have had the same thing with Jinx, right? It was like one team just needs to make one mistake at 3 items and you just take over the game. And it makes it look really cool.
It's weird because every split you have that kind of like, they only play this, they only play that. It's so many... I've been like a caster now for 2 years, and I see it through so many different metas. Even when I was a pro, it's like they only play Kai'Sa Xayah, and it's like, well, it is meta, and they're playing so well. They only play Jinx Aphelios. Well, it is meta. But the thing is, the only real way I think the test of time hits you is when we look at the jungle meta last year or the year up before. I think it was 2020 when the jungle meta was like set Volibear tanks, and then it went to carry jungles, and EU was really slow at doing it. And that's where Canyon just took over everyone because that's where like the raw skill comes in. So. It's very hard to judge based on like what they're playing. I will say, Neon was playing so much Jinx games, right? But he had a lot of little pop-off moments. So for me, I think bot lane is a bit of a debate where it's like on the third All-Pro team, is it Patrick Neon? Is it Targamas Mickey X? I think that's where I'm a bit unsure, but I think the rest is...
Actually, the one person I feel like has been snubbed a little bit is Kaiser. I think Kaiser had a really good split too, in a lot of ways. I think that he was still very key to how Mad Lions were playing out some of the games.
They played. No, I'm kidding. That's not fair. That was too harsh.
I mean, it's some of the intangibles, right? Because at the end of the day, when a team is by and large just struggling, it's kind of hard to kind of point fingers and say, look, but they're still doing good, because it's kind of like a caveat at that point. But I felt like Kaiser had some good games.
It's crazy to look at these pros. If you look at like the last few years, no caps.
Yeah.
There's no G280 carry.
No vitality.
There's no vitality. The super team whatsoever. No G2 in the first All-Pro team.
The super team syndrome. It means they suck.
On that G2 note, isn't that the first time that G2 haven't had any player in the first All-Pro team since 2017?
I believe 2017. That's correct. Yeah. So
times change.
They do. And now, of course, this is regular season. So these are all BO1s. These are all a lot of debates and question marks. And best of fives looking ahead to playoffs, the proof is in the pudding. Is VTO the next, like, in a generation of his own? We'll find out.
Poor VTO, though. One game away from Worlds last year.
One game, right? Well, look, let's see if Misfits or the rest of the team can step it up. Let's quickly look at the standings before we break down the matchups. So for everyone that's listening and potentially watching, what we're going to do is take a look at each of our best of fives. We'll talk about each team individually and then the matchup and work through the weekend. And then I'm going to put you two gentlemen on the spot and make predictions.
Oh, lovely.
I'll listen to what you say and then I'll make my predictions based on how you predicted.
No, but I've known you for a while, Trev. You like to go for the opposites. And like, if we vote Fnatic...
contrarian, are we?
I love it.
If we said Fnatic for us G2, both of us, you're going G2. See, I know you're going to do the opposite.
One of the things that I love about this job is that you can really make a defendable argument with enough time and broadcast space. And I happen to have a lot of broadcast time. Yeah. So I love to be contrarian. I also love to spark debate. Right? That's the whole point.
That's the fun thing about like opinions when it comes to matchups, because I think you can give valid opinions, unless you're kind of being a bit crazy or like a bit delusional. You know, you can give valid opinions.
They're defendable arguments.
Exactly, right. In the worst, if you ever doubt yourself, like, oh, damn, I don't have anything to say, you just go out of game.
In this essay.
You know, they're the underdogs. They have all the pressure. The enemy team has all the pressure on them.
I excel at this, Mark. I excel at this.
You just go for the outside stuff.
Okay, so we got the
history. History is a good one too. Oh, they didn't do it before.
The problem with me for history is I've got an awful memory. So like I actually have so many tabs open right now, like a bunch of historical things in case I need it. But let me quickly run through standings. All right, first and second Rogue Fnatic, third and fourth Misfits G2, fifth and sixth XL Vitality, and then obviously 4 teams are eliminated: Mad, SK, BDS, and Astralis. We focus primarily on obviously the playoff teams because it's a playoff episode of Euphoria. And I want to start with Friday's matchup, Rogue taking on Misfits. Let's start by breaking down the teams. I've got a set of questions I want to ask, and discuss here. How do the teams win? How do the teams lose? Who's their stud? Who's their dud? And let's start with Rogue. It's a strong word, so we need to choose our answers carefully here. How do Rogue win games? What is going to be the key? And I'm going to go to Caedrel first.
Oh, you gave an easy one. Damn.
Yeah. The hard one.
No, we can chime in on both of it, I think.
Of course. Yeah. We're going to start.
I want to make like an example of like maybe to give the viewers an easy way to digest how difficult it is to play against Malrang.
I'll tell you if it's easy to digest or not.
Let's imagine you're playing bot lane.
Okay.
And Malrang's on the enemy team and he started top side. So he's pathing into your lane.
Okay.
So you have timers in your head when you're playing bot lane, right? He can do 3 camps into bot, 2 minutes, 45 seconds. He can gank bot. But by around 4 minutes, he's probably basing going top. That's all we expect. Now, it's very common for junglers in their first clear. After they've done all their camps, they walk to where the enemy jungler started and put a ward on their second respawn. Their Grump or their Krugs. It's very, very common.
This is easy, by the way.
You understand it so far? You're following so far?
I'm with you.
So let's imagine your jungler's pathing top and Malrang's pathing bot. He puts a ward on his Krugs. So in about 4 minutes, 10 seconds, you should see Malrang on his Krugs, but he's not there. Right? And you're starting to panic. You're starting to wonder, where is he? You've warded bot lane river. Your mid lane has push. His Krugs are warded. But you can't push yet.
Yeah.
And the game's all about probability. He should be is the most common thing you'll ever hear in League of Legends comms. He should be top. He should have based by now. And that's when you're waiting game and you're waiting like, can we push this wave?
Can we
not? And when you think to yourself, well, it's 4 minutes 20, 4 minutes 30, he's probably going to show any second now. Let's just push. That's when you're getting ganked. That's the unpredictability Rogue have, and that's why I think Malrang has found so much successful plays around the map, because he doesn't play for the standardized play of just full clear base, standard ganks, look for very easy plays. So Rogue is very
unconventional timings,
very
challenging the norms,
and that's how I think is their power, but also their weakness. Because the fact that he's leaving those Krugs up and you can see them on spawn, and the ward's expired and they're still not dead.
Yeah,
timer's ticking, right?
I like to reference very odd things, but if this is about probability, this is just like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in like unlimited probability drive. He just turns up, blam, I'm here.
The whale falling from the sky next to a bowl of petunias. Some of us have heard Douglas Adams. I like that. Okay.
So I also think Larson, fantastic.
Yeah.
I think Larson's probably one of our top 3 mids. He was, I think, 3rd in the All-Pro. His laning has been...
Comp and Trimby were the surprise hits for me this spring when I look back to the games, because I anticipated and sort of expected a level out of Malrang, Odo, and Larson. I don't think I expected Malrang to pop off quite as much as he did, or to have the impact that he did, right? But when you hear the legacy of the player, and we told the stories, you expect a certain amount. But for Comp to step into Hans Sommer's shoes and to shine the way that he did, and for Trimby, who for me is continuing to develop to be one of these cool, calm, collected voices on a team. I don't feel like he's like a captain, right? But I do feel like he's a cheerleader. He's a positive influence. I've never heard the guy get flustered. And we've seen Trimby in some of the most challenging situations, both in studio and international events. And the dude is just like a really cool, calm killer in game that plays a variety of champions. So that was a surprise hit for me, seeing how well they played.
What I will say before we dive too deeply is we had Perks on EUphoria a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about like, how is playoffs going to go? And he said playoffs is going to be all about mental strength. Like, that's it. How long have they played throughout the split? How burnt out are they? How tired are they? How are they internally? Is there like a civil war going on inside the team? If there is, that team's gone from playoffs regardless of how good you are.
This is fine scenario.
This is fine scenario. So as much as we won't dive too deep into that because we have no clue how the teams are doing.
Yeah, you can't assume a lot of that stuff.
Behind the scenes mentality is so important. I mean,
we can't make definitive statements, but what we can do is we can draw inferences and conclusions, right? Because, history, story time. When you listen to interviews, when you watch how teams interact on stage, when you see the player cams, you can draw some tidbits of info. And like Odo is a really good example of an individual player who wears his heart on his sleeve at times, and he tells people. And I think when you see even Odo talking about the win streak, when you see some of the losses that they've had, there is a difference in how he communicates that pressure and that stress, right? So I feel as though Rogue, who were a team for me, all of last year, I called them chokers. I expected them to feel like being reverse swept and seeing the team that was so close to, sort of greatness, not fall apart, but fail to reach it, an indication of mental strength. But I don't have that same vibe right now.
You can see it last year as well. You think of Rogue last year in summer playoffs. They were everyone's favorite. I think they finished first. Everyone was saying Rogue is probably going to win the split.
Yeah.
They beat Misfits barely. Barely 5 games they won. They go against Mad, 3-0. They go against Fnatic, 3-0. They are broken. They're gone. And yes, they make it to Worlds and they did an okay job, but from Odo Amne being on EUphoria as well this year, this split, he was saying like the team was in the worst mental health state ever. Like no one was getting along barely. So I think mental is going to be very important.
That affects your practice as well, which is going to be, this is more like an overall point for a lot of our teams, but I feel like because we've had such a big break between regular split and playoffs too, there's a real chance for teams to address some of those fundamental issues. And if the atmosphere is good, we could see drastically different teams even coming into the
same
round.
Could be said the other way around.
Exactly. If it's a bad atmosphere, all apart, have that Rogue syndrome from last
It's funny though, because that time extra development can hurt teams or it can be good for teams. You look at the LCK, that just finished on Sunday. You know that playoffs start tomorrow.
Yep.
They've had 3 days break from playoffs.
How much of an impact will sort of the new patch that's come in? We'll briefly touch on that throughout our conversation, as well as like the
because that comes into
bubbles.
Prep.
Whoever's got a good read.
Scrim bubbles are so important.
It's important, right? Okay, so let's talk now for Rogue. I think pretty strong team when I think about like all stages of the game. When we think about draft, I don't recall us having huge issues.
Besides the 0-2 week, that was the 1 week.
Of course, but I do think you could make arguments when a team is like 10-0, 11-0, and you start like, I want to say experimenting. That's not fair because I don't know.
Yeah.
But playing around with options, right? Where do you see some ways to attack them? Because like we've talked about opportunity costs. We've seen when Malrang doesn't have the influence, he doesn't find the kills. The team does slow down. Like it feels to me a little bit like it's Malrang kind of leads the way.
So I feel like when Rogue tend to lose, it has been about just overstaying a little bit. I think teams call their bluff. I think that there was a really good example of this visually when they lost against Astralis, because they went for a red side invade. They didn't quite understand they were playing against like Vex on the other side, who can very easily punish you at that point. They overstayed their welcome, got punished, got snowballed against. Fnatic did a similar thing in their win versus them too. I think that if you kind of just show up and actually to where Malrang is and you say, you want to be unexpected, but we've kind of called your bluff, you fight them at that point. Sometimes they're not ready for the counter punch at that point. So I feel like Rogue, if they do have more of a exploitable weakness, it's kind of hitting them on their own unconventional terms.
Yeah, and I also think there's a bit of a clash in styles here where you have like Malrang is the one who will look for plays, and as much as we know he can play the farming style, this is probably what he's going to do, and Zlatan is probably the least active jungler we have in the league, right? So I think it's a case of Misfits holding Rogue as much as possible and going even, I think a good example is the SK game. SK draft mid-push to make sure they can track jungle.
Yes.
They draft really good scaling on both side lanes, Jinx and Gwen. Happy days, SK go even, they win out in fights, and Larson can't really find anything on the map. Even though Larson played really well that game, I do think that having 2 winning or nullifying side lanes is probably what's going to help Misfits the most. But I think there is a bit of a clash in styles in jungle. But Odoamne versus Hirit is probably where I'm going to look, because Hirit to me has been not the Hirit of last year.
He would be the dud. If you were to pick a team, like a player on Misfits, like that was like pretty convincingly the dud for spring. He had moments, don't get me wrong. Just before we dive into like a little bit more like the individual matchup, Nymaera, how the hell do Misfits win games?
So there's a player in the mid lane who's pretty good at League of Legends. And if I was going to go... I think the comparison I would draw is this team reminds me of one of my favorite rosters of all time, which was Crest Gaming Act 2020, which is a Japanese team with a guy called Arya on it, who's a great mid laner, Caedrel. I very much like
He was terrible in LCK. This guy is last in my tier list.
Of course, Arya was kind of a very big fish in his own little pond, but his team couldn't draft. So what you'd see is them take red side and just leave him to red 5 and just say, what's up here? What can you play which can just get into this whole scenario and just kind of 1v9 at some point? And I feel like Vito is in a similar spot for Misfits, where if he is in a composition where he can theoretically carry, he almost certainly will. I feel like when Misfits they do win, it's through giving Vito agency 1-2 item mark, where we obviously saw that huge Akali game, and I think that, to kind of skip ahead a bit, I think they fail on the same margin when he doesn't have that agency, and they're relying on him, saying that the loss that they had versus SK when he's on the LeBlanc and can't do the same kind of stunts.
Can I make a statement I'd like you both to check me on? Mm-hmm. I'm not the greatest at making statements in this game, but Misfits to me didn't have a consistency to their play at any stage of the game. They're individual players. The ones that were playing well, played well. When Neon found his form in the later half of the season, he was good. When, Vito was in positions they could play well. But it felt to me like they were really good at punishing mistakes. And so often this season, teams would have a big lead or be in a position where they were pushing something, and Misfits just found like an opportunity to attack.
They picked champions that help.
It felt to me like if I were to say, how do Misfits win games? Well, they win games by really, really, really punishing opponents' mistakes well.
Yeah, it's a very hard one to describe, because it's the harsh reality is they're losing the game. And like a lot of the times, if you look at like the best of ones especially, it's the enemy team making mistakes, whether it's Humanoid diving too deep in the Fnatic game, whatever it may be, in the team fights, and Misfits just punishing the overextensions. But you can give them some merit. I think the example is a good one. Is Vito is a good example. When he has playmaking, he can make things happen on side lanes. Like when he had the Akali against G2, he will make things happen, and that's their way back into the game. Because if you keep making them happen and keep getting shutdowns, you'll win. The Fnatic game was a lot different because he's playing Victor, so he can't really make any plays. But what tended to happen in that game was Fnatic would get a lot of kills, but they'd be against a Victor Jinx, and Victor Jinx would just clear waves in their face. Hirit would group up and sacrifice himself, and eventually they'd win one fight themselves. So Misfits, their early games are shaky. Their mid games are also a bit hit or miss, but they're very good at punishing mistakes. I think is the best conclusion.
Also,
we can
the team fights, even like their team fights to me were very impressive when you consider how often there were deficits as well throughout the course of the season. I genuinely don't think there's a more entertaining team to watch, not only because of they are able to turn around these like crazy plays, but so many teams give them opportunities at Elder or at Baron.
But it's crazy because you can even go back to
actually mind control the enemy team. Yeah,
you can even go back to like week 4, I think, against SK when Misfits is playing against them and they're losing the game against SK in the early stages, but they still bring it back. Oh, Vito's playing Yasuo. Oh, there's a Baron start, quadra kill for Vito.
Yep.
Everyone's happy, right? Vito pops off, so it's like. It's one of those things where it's like, surely they can't keep getting away with
Narrator.
It, right? I don't know. This team to me is like an enigma. I've asked a lot of pro players, where would they rank playoffs teams? Misfits to them has always been at the bottom. There was an interview with Selfmade where he was like, I think Misfits and XL in playoffs probably aren't going to be at the same level. I think it was many weeks ago, like week 7. But Misfits can always surprise. Summer 2021, they almost beat Rogue. They almost made Worlds. And I feel like Misfits is that team where, because they can't keep getting away with it, they're always doubted. Which is a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like if they are going to surprise, I think it has to be through early game jungle support stepping up. Because I think in terms of the fundamental issues they need to address, that's the big one. Because we were talking about early game is not great. But we have seen sparks of brilliance from Mercer and from Zlatan. Of course,
I think the last few weeks as well, especially in the bottom.
Exactly, yeah. Particularly kind of coming through early and mid split, and they had awful early game stats, like legitimately worse than the league. But when you can see them step up and have those sparks of brilliance. If they can address that in the sizable break that they've had, we could see, again, one of these crazy jumps in form from regular season to playoffs. I think that's where, if they are going to surprise, that has to be it.
Misfits, Stud VTO, Dud Hear It. Rogue.
Yeah, definitely.
Rogue, Stud.
Wow, you've got 4 studs.
It's so
5 studs,
tough,
I
isn't
think.
it? It's tough.
They don't have
The
a dud.
truth is, Stud or Dud is actually really...
Their
and
stud is
isn't-
friendship. The
but-
power of friendship.
Get out. You're fired.
maybe.
But isn't that quintessential Rogue? Like,
Here's my take for the stud. We'll say stud is Malrang just for this case, argument's sake.
okay.
Maybe the dud could
All
be
pro
draft.
number 1?
I think the dud could only really be. I think the draft
I
would
feel
hold
like
them
the
back a
stud
lot.
and the dud are both Malrang.
Okay, tell me why. Tell me
okay.
why draft. Tell me why draft.
I'm kind of with you on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's like all meta reads. Scrim bubbles will be very important, but also like if you think of Rogue previously, what tended to happen like in the past few years is they would draft pushing lanes all the time.
Yeah.
Lucian mid, Jace top, all those good stuff.
Yes.
And they play for lane push.
Yeah.
And if they get punished and they get ganked, which G2 did really well against them, I remember Jankos Diddley against Odoamne and Larson's Lucian a long time ago in summer. They would get punished, lose the lanes, get pushed in, the game would be over, right? They've shown a lot more consistency this time around in draft. I just hope to God that in playoffs they don't swap it up. They've done a lot of good scaling, good picks, mages mid, happy days in bot with like Jinx Aphelios, Odoamne super flexible. Let's keep that.
Yeah.
If this AD meta shakes them up too much in bot lane where they overthink it in a scrim bubble and they're like, oh, we should play Draven lanes and play for bots. I think Ashe early rotation is really good. Lucian Nami bot, let's play for 2v2. That's where it's going to come to bite them. Because if you remember Rogue's biggest weakness, it was when they played Lucian Nami. I remember when they were playing Lucian Nami once, Comp and Trimby, they did fall behind in the lane. They lost to a Lulu lane, I think it
wasn't that Neon actually on the Jinx?
I think it was against. It was against.
Yeah, it was against
Neon.
Misfits. Rogue versus Misfits.
Same question then, because if the draft is going to be impactful, I mean, when we look at Neon, of the 18 games, he played 9 on Jinx.
Yeah.
And Jinx expected to be slightly lower tier, right, on the playoff patch.
But if you look at, this is the last time Rogue and Misfits played against each other. Yeah, Neon was playing Jinx Lulu into Comp's Lucian Nami.
I think they got 2v2 kills.
And they got 2v2 killed.
Yeah.
And they got pushed in. And Odoamne is playing a tank into Camille. He's playing Ornn into Camille against Spirit. He's
it's
like,
all
well,
well
I'm
and good
getting
going even in
outscaled,
that
guys.
lane.
Do something.
Yes.
Larson's playing Ryze into Orianna. He needs to make things happen as well. So everything just collapses. So I think they need to make sure that the dud is not the draft. And they don't fall into this trap that they had with false meta reads or like overthinking
that's a good call.
things.
I like that.
Okay. I like that. I'm not going to let you guys give predictions now. We'll do a full playoff bracket breakdown at the end of the matchups. Let's move on to Saturday's game briefly. Talk about Fnatic G2.
Dude,
I know, there's
I remember the days, like, what's happened to this matchup, man? Who's remaining from the old Fnatic G2 days, apart from Jankos and Caps and things like this, man? And maybe Hylissang?
I mean, Hylissang will probably be there, but I mean, the thing
Wonders.
is, the thing is, it's if you go back long enough, nobody, right? And
The problem is, in my head, I've got engraved Reckless vs. Perks.
correct.
Yeah.
It's really engraved.
The thing for me that will define this matchup now is Caps. And just because of the history on both sides of the organization, now sitting next to Jankos, and then being flanked by a new look G2 against Fnatic, right?
Yeah.
3 new players that are under this banner that frankly surprised. I mean, like G2's performance this spring, I don't know if anybody anticipated them to be where they are. Also, the conversation that they started around the way that they're playing the game, the way that the rookies have come up and been integrated, Flacket in particular, I think. So, you know, there are so many different facets of this conversation to have. And then on the other side of the coin for Fnatic, I mean, they blew everybody out the water. If people expect them to be good. I don't know if people expect them to be as good as they were, right? So we do have limited time. I want to start with G2. Okay. Let's talk about how they win games. What made them look good throughout the regular season that will potentially help them coming up into
G2 is so hard to characterize because I feel like when they've won in various forms, it's not like they're a one-trick team. Obviously, through a lot of the early and mid split, they played quite heavily through mid jungle to activate top. So they'd have stuff like something that we picked up on pretty early is that isn't Perks isn't Caps rather. There you go.
Happened a few times.
Yeah, isn't Caps taking a load of combat summoners on stuff like Ryze and Victor? He's taking Ghost, not Teleport, so that means he can go help out Jankos earlier into the game, use that pressure which they can then get from that fighting around the level 3 to 6 mark, and then go top lane to enable Broken Blade. So that was something that they did in one facet. But then they've also had another style of play where they played more towards bot lane in a couple of weeks. I think it was week maybe 5 and 6 they played towards bot lane. Can't remember the exact games on that. But if we're talking about the G2 kind of uniquely special to them, it has been enabling Broken Blade.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I'll tell you as most play champs already. Akshan, Akali, Jace, Yone.
Yep.
I think that basically sums up how they're playing the game, right?
Yep.
But the funny thing is, when I was looking at G2, I think G2 find more success when Caps is on a stable pick, when he's on something like a mage. I feel like when he's playing Orianna, Azir...
Not a playmaker is the
not so much playmaker, but something that doesn't actually have to force itself to do something early, right? Victor, Orianna, Azir, he's been playing, I think, fantastically on them. They've lost both their games on TF. They're losing on Sylas, they're losing on Ahri, they're losing on Cassidon.
The last Sylas game he played was so good, though.
The Sylas game was a win, sorry. The Ahri and the Cassidon, all these kind of like early game-based melee assassins, barring the Cassidon, of course.
The ones that Vito would find success on to a degree.
Right. Yeah, I think barring LeBlanc, I think mages work for Caps so much better. I mean, you look at their game against, was it Fnatic, where they got late invaded level 1, or they late invaded level 1 and it backfired. No, it was against Rogue, sorry. They late invaded level 1 topside. Trimby was there, it backfired, and then the game was just literally over from that point because G2's comp just solely revolved around getting ahead early no matter what. Just find a play. Trimby read the level 1 invade, game was over, Jankos was behind, they couldn't find anything. Then you go back to another game, I don't know if it was the same one, but Jankos did like 3 camps bot side, and then he just backtracked to go for a bot gank instead of going topside. And then he didn't get anything out of them. He just got a cleanse. And then that was it. Top was now lost or like can't really punish. So they're playing comps that are very, very early game focused and they need to get ahead. And that's kind of like a good and a bad thing once again. Where
high risk, high reward in some ways.
Yeah, if Fnatic outlane you or they track you very well, then you're a bit screwed. So I'd love to see them fall back to
the thing.
Caps on a mage. I think it's just
it's
such a
game
safe
was
option.
Awesome.
The thing that I felt when I watched G2 throughout spring was that they found a way to play their style, with Broken Blade being kind of the primary playmaker in some ways, playing early games is almost regardless of what patch, what meta, what picks and bans. Like when you look through their pick ban priority in comparison to so many other teams, the amount of versatility and like variance is gigantic. But a lot of times, at least to my eyes, it's still played into a similar way. Broken Blade was always on some sort of influential pick. That was a surprise to me. When I saw this roster and then I saw the way that they've played, there was a stability to their play. Like when this team has a lead at 15 minutes, they win 9 out of 10 times. And like I wouldn't have expected that when you look at the champions they have, when you look at sort of the draft and then you put the names to them and then go, oh yeah, they're sitting third in our
was
league.
the 1 out of 10 times the one versus Misfits?
I think it was. I don't think exactly. I've just got the percentages.
God, that game. But, I mean, their early games are unreal. Like they are, I think, probably our best early game team. If this team gets rolling, that ball is just going to grow and grow and grow, and it's going to knock you over unless they make some happy little accidents. But you're right. I think Broken Blade, and Marcus might hate me here because I remember he told me the stats in week 8. Yeah. But I can't remember. I think Targamas has the most unique champions of all supports. Caps is at least tied.
Broken Blade has the most in top.
And Broken Blade has the most in top.
Confirming.
And you can see that, are they a master of all trades and jack of all trades and master of none? Probably not. I think their early games are solid.
The main thing for me is that the champions, despite having that variety, they fill a similar flavor. They need to be played and executed like slightly differently.
It's a concept.
But conceptually, thank you. That's the word I was looking for that I couldn't find. It kind of fits the same.
If I was to say dud, I think their weak point is probably Flackid. I think he hasn't really. I think towards the end of the split, he has found his form in this team, but you could see throughout the whole of spring, he really didn't know where his place was. He's playing things like Seraphine in week 1, trying to find like some mages bot.
He was kind of put on Senna duty because it's kind of easy stylistically to know what you're doing.
He was put on Senna Jhin duty. He didn't get many Aphelios games. The only game he had, he lost on, and then he was back to Jinx duty. So I think now with the AD meta changes, I think if any team's going to benefit from a 3-week break, it's probably G2, especially with bot lane changes. Now they have more time to figure out what their bot lane really does.
I actually feel like the break is going to benefit our 5th and 6th teams quite a lot, but we'll talk about that when it comes to it.
Okay, but now, I like this. Yeah. I'm with you. Who would you say the stud is then?
Stud on G2, Jankos.
Jankos, probably. I feel, because we're talking about the early game thing, and I think the interesting thing for me is that while we have Rogue who have very intriguing early games, we have Fnatic that have really intriguing early games, and then G2 as well. I feel like they do it in different ways. I feel like Rogue do it through Mallow Trimby. I feel like Fnatic do through their bot lane. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I think G2 do it through mid-jungle. So it's, again, stylistically very different ways to do that. But I think the stud is almost like Jankos plus Caps helping him. But it's mainly Jankos who's kind of like the real horsepower behind the engine. Yeah.
Let's talk about Fnatic then, if we turn our attention to them. If, hypothetically, Flackid is going to be the dud, and I think that's defendable, going up against Upset.
We saw what happened in the last game.
If there was ever a duo...
No, I think it's Hilly.
If there was ever a duo that was going to find a way to exploit a 2v2 lane, Upset and Hilly will not only know what it is, but will most likely execute it. I think they are the most impressive 2v2 to watch in the laning phase, just because of their style. Like these two dudes.
I mean, we saw what happened the last time that these two teams faced off. It was effectively just, oh my gosh, that's a lot of pike hooks being hit. Yep. That's not very good. Well, the game's over. Something's happened because Hilly's
I don't know. Was Caedrel casting that? Did you say it was an aimbot. I think at some point.
Was I casting it? I don't remember if I was casting it.
I do remember whoever was casting it saying it was an aimbot. But yes, the impact.
Maybe it sounds like something I would say. It definitely sounds like something. I mean, I think the stud is Hylissang. Like, the fact that this guy can blind pick Pyke against some of these teams, I'm just absolutely shocked by. You know what sold it for me?
His Zilean initiation play. He played Zilean like Pyke.
Flashing in and getting engages. The last time they faced was a weird one. I mean, bot lane smashed, but then I remember G2 made this Herald play, and then they overextended topside, tried to chase Hylissang, and then they lost all their tempo, lost Herald, and then the game was just done from there. Even though Razork had some happy little accidents with his ults. If Razork didn't have these happy little accidents, the games would have ended a lot quicker, I'm sure, because the fights would just be gone, where G2 actually had a small chance.
Razork's the dud for me.
Razork's the dud for you, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a liability.
I just think if I have to pick,
Yeah.
And I think Razork is a similar play to me where at the beginning of spring to end of spring, you can see the development as an individual, but also the integration with the rest of the team. I think as a whole, Fnatic, they showed that literally every single player on that team has the ability to pick up whatever slack may be missing, throughout the course of spring, at least in my eyes. And I think if I had to pick a dud, but now how do Fnatic win games?
Well, before I was going to say that, I was going to say Razork's gotten a lot better.
His team fighting is really
And when we say dud, it's a hard one because, he's not a liability at all.
Yeah,
but
we are not covering a basis.
We're playing the stud. We're playing the stud dud game.
I'm challenging people to think about it. If somebody is the star, who is the player that you would look at as with the biggest question mark that could impact their influence? That does not say that all duds are created equal. Right?
Fnatic is through. Till the end of time, they're going to play for bot lane. So it's very obvious what they're going to do. So again, I guess you have a small contrast in styles where G2's playing topside a lot of the time, or drafting more for topside, we'll say, rather than playing.
What if Wunder chokes in playoffs again because of World of Warcraft?
That's what I was going to bring up. It's like Wunder.
Well, he said he's not a fan of Lost Ark, so he doesn't have to worry about that one.
Not a fan of Lost Ark.
I don't know what the kids are playing these days.
So Fnatic's playing towards bot, you got G2 playing towards top. Maybe you've got some cross-mapping going on, all that good stuff. Maybe G2 decide to match, or Fnatic decide to match, whatever it may be. But Wunder is like...
Oh, he's your dud.
No, he's not a dud to me.
Stop dancing around it, just say it.
He's not a dud to me, it's just like, Fnatic are so humanoid is the best
because the other three are not your duds.
No. He's just like...
Process elimination.
No.
Which finger you cut off?
Razork is my dud.
Okay.
So my point on Wunder is you've got Fnatic is the best bot lane in the league. Humanoid's top 2 mid-tier VTO, maybe the best. Razork's early games were a bit weak, but now he's back, and then there's Wunder. And it's where does Wunder fit into this team? Because he's playing a lot of carries every now and then. He's had some great outplays, but he's been very, very quiet. We haven't heard much from him. I don't think we've seen much from him socially or anything like this, but he's doing his job consistently. He's doing what he needs to do. Some of the Jace games, I'm still not convinced on the Wunder Jace just yet, but maybe he can prove me wrong in playoffs. But I think if anyone's going to be the dark horse or the wild card in the series, it's probably Wunder. I mean,
he's so unconventional again. We have that out of Hylissang, but I feel like even though Wunder's not picking the weird picks anymore, which he's obviously very famous for, I feel like that kind of X factor comes out of just the random ways that he's playing around the map. And in a best of 5, that's so hard to prepare for.
And Wunder's had in fan sentiment a bad year last year, or he was playing bad. But I mean, if you look at the whole year, he was on tank duty the whole time anyway, because G2 was playing mostly towards bot slide or mid, it felt like anyway. Not an excuse, but still. And Wunder is you remember the days he was picking Soraka top, Ivern top, he's full of confidence, doesn't care.
It's funny, if you turn nameplates off and you just showed the game start this thing, I would have said Broken Blade was Wunder.
Yeah, I mean,
based on history, right? Just based on history, play style.
You wouldn't really say that this is Wunder. I mean, he's just a lot more stock standard. What's my job, officer? And I'll do it. I'll get it done for you. Will he be different in playoffs?
But the team needs that because of the investment and the commitment to bot lane, right?
Exactly.
They can't have everyone being super crazy.
What if they pull a gigantic surprise and play for top?
No. Well, play for top is something, but pick Akshan or something, or Lucian top, and then Wunder goes to shy mode. I don't think that'll happen because I think Wunder is just what do you need me to do? I'll do it.
Yeah.
I think that's what's helping Fnatic a lot. He's almost I won't say a backbone because his role is top lane, and top lane is a useless role. But he is a bit of a backbone in terms of that in that case.
I won't say it, then he goes on to say it.
You know what I mean, though, right?
So how the hell do you beat Fnatic? I mean, is it literally just survive laning game and then somehow outsmart them? Because
they occasionally overdive. And there was, we saw that with the Misfits game, which they lost, and you think, oh my gosh, they're so far ahead again. Surely they've won this. So
the way to beat Fnatic is hope they make a mistake.
I feel like there are mistakes you can play. If you're going to view it on what they've shown already, I feel like you keep yourself within arm's reach, and you have picks which can punish those overdives. I feel like that stylistically checks out in my head.
The drafting is super important against this team then.
I think I would largely
trying
say
to
that.
translate,
But I think that the very difficult thing with a team like this is that they're just really damn good. They're really damn good. There is no easy solution to it. That's the first thing I'd think of.
The thing that kind of stands out to me in my mind is the Astralis game that they lost. And now the way Astralis did it was they played a bot lane matchup with Push and the can dive, Jinx Galio into Rakan. Hylissang Rakan is like the deadliest thing on the planet. If you don't want to give Hylissang a single champion, it's Rakan. But he got it. And I remember Zanzar's pathing was just like, he pathed bot, he stayed bot, he overstayed bot, took enemy jungle bot camps, put so many wards. And then, you know how I was talking about the concept previously about Rogue and Malrang, where he starts topside, 4 minutes he should show on that ward top. Zanzar didn't really do that. When he based after clearing top to bot, he went back bot just to make sure he finds Razork and push him out. So they were investing so much resources into bot that they matched it and it worked. It actually worked what they were doing, and they pushed out Razork. Upset Hilly were not really laning 2v2 at that point. And then that's where it felt like things slowly fell apart for me. I'm sure that G2 are going to study that Astralis game because they also played things like Jace top and they were playing a carry top, but they still managed to shut down bot very well. And I think you can play these carry tops like Jace, and we saw Rogue do it with Akshan, where when we say play for top, we say resource are invested there. What's a resource? Well, it's your mid lane hovering, giving you topside vision, jungle pathing towards you, support roaming timers towards top. This is what playing for top is. But they weren't really doing that. They were having a carry top, but because they were playing so hard to bot, and because they were finding their jungler bot all the time, he was playing in isolation anyway. So you can play for top by not really playing there so much.
Yeah, by drawing all the attention elsewhere, so it's still
exactly.
fine.
And it's just a process of elimination, and kind of like, he is bot side, so you're fine. He's not top side, you know? He can't be there. He's just trying to match bot all the time, so you're in isolation. Just keep it up. So I think maybe G2 could swap their strategy up, play more towards shutting down Fnatic and letting Broken Blade play in isolation. Because this is one of the dangerous things of like playing tanks into Camille or tanks into... That's why we don't see too many blind pick champions like Sion and things like this. They're more so last picks, because if you get counted by a Camille and you're sitting in isolation the whole game and the game's all about bot, then eventually you're just going to lose if your bot lane's not winning. And even if they are, you're already behind anyway.
Several teams found that out against Alfari when he picked Camille.
I mean, can I extrapolate then if I zoom out with everything we talked about, the individual players, the play styles, our studs and duds, when I think about G2 as a team and some of the versatility, creativity, the drafts that they've had, then I also think about the play styles and the priorities. Like, you know, we know Broken Blade and Jankos have been difference makers for G2. Upset Hilly have been the reason Fnatic are like the as good as they are, and then everyone else filling in behind. Draft seems like it's going to be super intriguing. And then I also want to take one step out as well and look at, if you look at the individual player experience in these situations, and I'm going to go back to what Caedrel was saying right at the beginning, it's Fnatic G2, you know, who's been around, what names? I always think of Perks versus Reckless. Well, they're not even, right? Now, you put yourself in the situation where Razork is representing Fnatic as the strongest looking team we have in Europe, right? And needs to step up, shut down control, Onso, whatever G2 and Jankos is doing, the most experienced jungler that Europe has ever produced.
Probably the best jungler Europe's ever produced.
No argument there. Like, if you go jungle role, the GOAT. Not even a question of the jungle role, just in terms of his tenure. Then you look at the bottom lane, right? Upset Hilly, with the way that they've played, the experience they have, there is a huge intangible experience advantage on the players on the Fnatic side, right? That can help in a best of 5 scenario, but it is complicated by the manner that these two teams play relatively differently.
The funny thing is, we're talking about top, we're talking about bot, we're talking about like the history of the players you just said, but it's still, you know, it's Caps versus Humanoid as well, right?
It's I haven't even got to the mid lane.
It's nuts, right? Like, you think of like experience on the side of Fnatic, and you think of experience and titles and all these things, and you go to G2 and it's like, well, yes, they have Flacket and Target Mass, and they don't have any titles, but, you know, they have Caps, they have Jankos, you know. I mean, Flacket said in his interview on his Reddit, I mean, it was a couple of weeks ago, it's like, it's really weird still for me when I look to the right and I see Caps Jankos. It's like seeing Messi and Ronaldo, and he's like, you know, so I think they can be filled with experience, I think can kind of be felt from people, and
but
confidence
you cannot
as well.
Deny the fact that I agree with everything you've said. Flacket and Target Master are still sitting there looking to the left, and there's 3. Every single person of Fnatic can look side by side and go, except Razork, right?
True.
So like, just
the good thing is when you're let's imagine Flacket's POV, right? You're about to go into Champion Select. All you can hear is Jankos screaming like an animal at the top of his voice about how he's going to stomp everyone. You know, he's like,
or singing some crap song.
Yeah, or singing some songs. Caps is laughing in his 1v1s. You know, the vibes are great. It's not like, you know, I don't know how Fnatic's going to be. You know, Humanoid, I guess, is a lot more reserved and a lot more quiet. You know, so when Razork is looking left and right or whatever it may be, and we're talking more holistically around experience, I think they're going to be a lot more relaxed, and Yamato's going to be the one to be like giving them massages, giving them talks.
Do you think the vibe from both Fnatic and G2 is pretty positive and upbeat? Like, you know, these are two teams that have had ups and downs and personality differences, and like we've watched as fans and viewers. but it feels like both teams are in a pretty good groove. Like,
Yeah.
if there were a happiness meter,
It's
one could argue this may be the happiest the organization teams have been.
What I
in a
will say
while.
quickly is, I think they're very, very happy. Like very, very happy. It sounds weird. They look very happy from the outside. But
Yes.
you look at
Oh my
last
god, they're
year.
enjoying themselves so much.
Last year, G2 did not look.
No,
G2 did not look happy.
they did not.
Fnatic looked a lot better than they did.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say as an exception, Yankos looked happy. Like he got on the
Yeah, but he
stage, he was
always does.
screaming.
It's hard for him to not.
And it's hard for him because he's
Yeah.
he's got a very positive attitude, he's a very positive
Yeah.
mindset. But yeah, definitely different to last year, I think.
But where that tangibly comes in is that we kind of, to combine a couple of things that we mentioned already, we talked about scrim bubbles, right? And if something just goes, just shit hits the fan, game 1, game 2, and that gets popped, you need to have that kind of mentality to actually switch things up very quickly. And I think that experience and that mentality helps you stay the course in like a game 3 where you need to change something up because what you've practiced hasn't worked. So I think if we do see like an early lead coming out from one or two of these teams, that's when we'll start seeing that really kind of like have its metal tested.
Yeah. Expectation wise as well, I feel as though there is more pressure on Fnatic, significantly more pressure
Definitely.
on
They
Fnatic
have more expectations.
than on G2
Yeah.
and expectations. And that does have a factor when pressure is put on, right? So if you're down 0-1, if you lose a
Yeah.
game, etc. So it's just one of those things that does play in my mind.
How long has it been since G2 were the underdogs in the G2 Fnatic matchup? I think even last year they were
Probably the
favorites.
regular
G2.
split.
Do you know, if I were to answer that question on gut, I think this might be the first time that they were underdogs. I might go as far as to say that, like, potentially
Maybe
2018.
Summer 2018, maybe.
2018
Yeah.
Fnatic.
Shannon with it.
With Hyunwoo did.
Shannon with G2.
And that would probably be the
And then
only other
lost
time. But
Spring
like,
to Fnatic at the same
since
time,
then,
so-
since that era of the 18-0 Fnatic, this might be the first time G2 being considered. Because last year's super team attempt didn't work out, but the benefit of the doubt was there because of so many years of success. And this time around, you
know
might
what?
go,
I think we should have done predictions as we go through the matchups.
Okay.
So the Rogue Misfits one.
okay,
Quickly going back before we go to the
sure,
third one.
let's go for
We
it.
can do
Yeah.
that.
Good,
Yeah.
good
I'm going to
luck.
start with
Phil.
Trevor.
Oh, damn it. Okay, so what are we doing now? Are we going lane by lane?
Let's do
just-
prediction for the matchup G2 Rogue versus Misfits,
Okay,
and I want a
works for me.
scoreline as well.
Scoreline as well. Okay, so if I'm going to go Rogue versus Misfits,
You've got it in the upper bracket, going towards the round 2 best of 5 upper bracket. If they lose, not out.
am I allowed to do 2 predictions? One in my head, one in my heart, because both, my loves work for Misfits.
The bias
Fisher
is a
always
little
comes
bit there. The
first.
Fisher always comes first.
Just
Is the Fisher the
falling-
heart?
Just as 100%.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I think that Rogue will win this series.
No, don't give
3-1.
me a cop out and then say but.
No. I think Rogue will win the series 3-1. I think they're more stable, they're more reliable. I have more faith in Rogue's ability to prepare for Misfits than I have for Misfits to prepare for Rogue.
Okay.
I want Misfits to win. And I will have one small caveat. I don't think that they will.
Mhm.
I think Misfits have been too volatile. Officially, I'm not doing a double hedge bet. But the only way that Misfits will win is if Rogue lose the game. Do you know what I mean? If Rogue fumble, if
If they
Rogue drop
give
the
it to them,
ball,
basically.
if Rogue hand it over.
Yeah.
And that's where I see it. So, like, for me, Rogue both win and lose the series.
Okay, so
in
then
my
Rogue is
mind.
deciding. It's Rogue's form that'll decide this.
100%,
Okay.
Yes.
What are you thinking?
So first off, I had a very nice notebook this split, which was maybe referencing the Death Note. I've made a new notebook, and this is for playoffs, and I'm going to write all my predictions in this one and see what happens. So I think in my first Magi Soul Stealer prediction, I actually think Misfits could win this series. I think they're going to win it in a close series, but so I think it's going to be 3-2. But I think that they have this extra factor of they're the ones which are playing catch up from the regular split. They've had a lot of time to do that. Rogue, I don't know how much they can refine what they've already got coming out of this regular season, and I feel like
They peaked too early.
I think that
Okay,
they might have more of a struggle to peak for this first
I
series,
actually
whereas
really want
Misfits.
you to be right.
and I feel like, again, if we're talking about them surprising, I think if Schlatan and I think if Mercer come out the gates really, really hot, I think that they can upset this matchup. So yeah, I think I'm going 3-2 for Misfits.
Damn, I mean, it was last year 3-2 to Rogue. I'm going to say Rogue. I'm going to say 3-1 to Rogue. I think Misfits might be able to take a game. I think as much as you say it's Rogue's game to lose, I think it's Malorang's game to lose, honestly. I think
Stud and dud.
it's funny because I have a little bit of history with Malorang, because when I went to Korea in 2017 to play solo queue for 4 months to level up, I was staying with him. I was basically
That is
living with
awesome.
him.
Oh, really? That's so
yeah,
cool.
for 4 months. So we had a little bit of a personal relationship 4 years ago. We went out drinking every now and then. But I think he's
As you do in
as you do in
Seoul,
Korea,
yeah,
of course. It's a
exactly.
nighttime city.
Yeah, it really is.
So
it's
I mean,
amazing.
there was a bit of a language barrier, but we talked quite often. I think, and I watched them scream a lot of the time. They were in Ever 8. They were screaming IG. It was so fun to watch. I think Malorang's a very confidence-based player. He's a very momentum-based player. And I think that when he's winning like a game 1...
What is
he'll
your
be-
margin of error then? What is your margin? Like, so make or break on Malrang, right? That's a statement. If Malrang loses game 1,
I think they'll be okay.
If
they're
Malrang
down
goes down
2-0
0-2
or 2-1, 2-0, 2-1, I think there's going to be a bit of a crack.
Oh, interesting.
So,
but ultimately, you're saying what I'm saying as well. This rogue win or lose.
Yeah. Now, Malrang is a fantastic player, but I really do think that confidence is key and momentum is key. When he feels it, he's going to talk a lot. I watched every single voice comms they had this split. When he's behind and he's losing or he's a bit unsure where he is, he's very reserved. And I think Trimby really helped bring it out of him because he just non-stop talking. What's next plan? What are we doing, guys? Where are we going? What's the idea? Which is great. But in the best of 5, you got to pick it up.
Yeah.
You can't just leave after the best of 1 and
what I love,
figure
by
out
the way,
the time.
I want to say thank you for taking control of your podcast and then making us do predictions. I was going to do it later.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to push us ahead. I'm going to do the Fnatic G2 prediction
Okay,
first.
you go ahead.
I hopefully producers listening. So I went 3-1 Rogue.
Okay.
I think Fnatic are going to shit the bed and I think G2 are going to win.
So it's going to be Rogue G2 in the upper bracket.
I think so. I really do.
Okay. So I was contrarian on the first one. You've got this one. You can do the next one.
I think there is too much momentum and too much confidence on the Fnatic boys. And I think that G2, taking a page from what Nymaera was saying a little bit ago, the way that they've sort of evolved and grown and stabilized, I think they play to my eyes, is going to allow them this like clearness of what to do, how to keep Fnatic at arm's length. I think it's going to be a close series as well. I do think it's either going to be 3-0 to completely shut them out, or it's going to be 3-2. They're going to go all the way to the end because they won't be able to execute their plans well.
Okay, but if you have to choose.
If I have to choose, I'm going to say G2 3-2 against Fnatic.
That'd be the best. That would be the best series we could hope for.
I really do. And I also think that when it comes down to clutch and somebody's going to step up, I just have a lot of faith and confidence in Caps and Jankos to step up and lead the way, despite all my conversation earlier about experience. I think G2's going to take this one.
I feel gut instinct says 3-1 Fnatic. I think that they're very comfortable in the way that they're playing the game right now. The one thing that could upset it is if the bot lane meta just completely flies out the window. I think I made a prediction when I was on desk, actually, when we were talking about, who's more likely to win the whole title thing? Is it going to be Fnatic or Rogue or G2? I was like, I can't, the title.
The championship, LEC Spring, just the title thing.
Yeah. Sometimes words are very hard. I have a certain quota of words I use. I'm running very low on them. But I feel like Fnatic are playing very close to the way that they want to play the game out in their ideal world. And I think that they are very comfortable with the way they're doing that right now. I feel like if the meta shifts towards giving more agency towards mid-jungle, so you can play through topside a lot more easily, I think that G2 have the stylistic advantage, but I think on current form, 3-1 Fnatic is where I'm sitting.
So what I've learned about predictions over the last 2 years is sometimes you have to be a bit crazy. Now, this isn't a very good, big one to be crazy on.
I can confirm this, by the way.
But like you look at last year, I thought Rogue was going to win the split. They bomb out. They almost lost to Misfits. I don't know what's happening. My world's pick'ems. God knows what's going on in Group A. Like sometimes you just can't really go with the norm. I think this is a matchup where I don't know why, but Trevor's predictions are my predictions this time around.
Yes! I've infected you.
I feel like it's a 3-2 to G2 as well.
Is there something happening beyond the screen? Or?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like the air or something. I'm going to say 3-2 G2. I don't know. I feel like there's just a couple things that are like poking at Fnatic, which I think might make them struggle a bit against G2. Like one of them is the bot lane meta. I feel like
that's the big one, really.
The big one is definitely the bot lane meta. One of them is maybe how is Razor going to perform in a playoffs environment with Fnatic? How are they at adapting?
And this is just gut instinct, right? Because it's like it shouldn't, but intangibles matter.
And I imagine I have this picture in my head of like G2 lose game 1 or they win game 1 or whatever, and Broken Blade, Caps and Dylan and Broken Blade are talking a lot about what went wrong, and Jankos, everyone's talking, and Flacken and Targamas, I think, the personality just sit there and be like, yep, okay, got it. They're not going to be like, I think this, I'm not sure about that. I think that's really helpful because it's not a lot of opinions flying around. Right?
I'm going to say something that's a bit mean here. Also, in terms of recency bias, in terms of which coach has gone through more trials and tribulations that's needed to rally the troops in a difficult situation, Dylan has significantly more experience than
Yamato.
But then you think to what?
Recency bias. And please don't get me wrong, there were some big dramas.
What I will say is, as much as Fnatic have a lot of voice, whatever, I think they will bring it together. I just favor G2 as well because there was a clip on Reddit which was pretty funny. I don't know if you saw the Perks
that's
clip.
it then. Clip on Reddit.
No, the Perks clip where Perks said if Fnatic win the split, Europe is the worst it's ever been.
And Upset had the reply as well, talking about scrims. No team plays on stage.
And then Mickey replied to that.
There's a lot of like Mickey saying, he upset tweeted people don't play like they do in scrims, and Mickey replies, yeah, get shit on, we just beat them in scrims, and then, a little bit of banter with upset saying, jungle camping bot or whatever.
So you did what I did as well. The only difference is you said it on the microphone. I also had those clips informing my prediction.
Yeah, so
I forgot about those clips.
The main thing is, it is just a little bit of behind the curtain. It's peering into stuff that you don't really put values on. Okay, so you and I have got Rogue G2 in the upper bracket. You have got Rogue Fnatic in the upper bracket. We'll come.
No, I have Misfits Fnatic in the upper bracket.
Misfits Fnatic upper bracket. Okay, we'll have to write this down.
It's funny though because maybe Fnatic's doing bad in scrims. I don't know what's going on.
We don't know. Okay, I want to move us on to the third matchup, and then let's finish our brackets, and then I think we can start to wrap up this episode. XL versus Vitality. How do they win? How do they lose? What's the stud? What's the dud? XL are in playoffs, so Nymaera, you and I are no longer allowed to talk for a few minutes because Marcus Aurelius, XL's first playoff best of 5.
Yep.
Nearly 2,000 days since they started in the LEC.
Yeah, toss it to me now.
Let's go. Go for it.
I think they're gonna get stomped. Honestly, I think that it's. Look, I'll be brutally honest.
You were very brutally honest.
I think it's really hype and it's really awesome that they made it, but I do favor Vitality in this. I'll do my prediction later on.
Yes, let's finish the conversation and then we do.
But I think lane by lane, they're definitely a little bit outclassed. I think bot lane is definitely one role whether they can take over. Mid lane can be even, but I can't. As much as I want to say XL have a chance, I can't go against like perks in best of 5s. I've done it before, and it's
really hard to do that.
I really can't do it again. If you look at it lane by lane, I mean, top lane I favor Vitality, of course. I think Alphari's laning is probably, it still is the best in the league. I think he's one of the best carries we have in Europe. I think when Alphari's in form, he's one of the tops I think of who can like really put up a fight against some of the Eastern top laners. Alphari. I think XL's drafts have been pretty good. Their last draft against Fnatic I actually liked, where they picked like Lissandra into LeBlanc. They played like a Jinx lane, of course, which was good. Finn was playing Camille into Jace, and he was playing really well into that matchup. He was actually getting push and getting some jungle attention. The only problem is they were playing against like Zeri, Renata, so they were a bit outclassed by the release date diff, is what I like to call it. Where, you have no clue what the hell's going on. Sure. I favor Vitality in this matchup. I think Markoon is a bit of a... I don't want to say he's the stud of the dud, but he's the X factor to me because he is still so kind of fresh to the scene. And I've spoken to Markoon a lot of the times, and he is very, very, very strongly opinionated. Like he will say an opinion, and he will follow that opinion.
Do you think that's surprising for a player with his experience?
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. He is so convinced of some of the things that he says, which
both
is good and a bad thing.
Blessing and curse.
It's both a blessing and curse. A lot of things are at the time in League of Legends. But I think strongest point for XL, bot lane definitely. Another big strong point for XL, flexibility in mid lane, which is good. I think Nukeduck can play basically anything you want to put him on that can counter whatever.
Just not
Can he play it well? Yeah.
That's the thing. Can he play it well? Will he get? How will perks play against that? And then Markoon's just raw confidence. I've never seen so much confidence in a rookie in my life. Just speaking to him behind the scenes, like this guy does not give a shit, right? He's going to send it. So that could be another X factor for XL, but still very Vitality.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk then. I want you to give me your stud and dud before I jump to Nymaera and focus on XL. Yeah.
Can I say bot lane? Patrick and Mickey is
Go for it. Why not?
Because
it's your show.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, stud definitely Patrick and Mickey. Okay. Dud, as much as I hate saying dud, I think it's probably Finn.
Yeah.
I think he is probably, I don't want to say the weakest member of XL, but he has the hardest matchup.
That's the whole thing. That the reason that I use that word is like it's such a controversial, strong word to use. But then you have to justify why that player is going to be there. And I think that's fair. Finn, again, is one of the players that I was definitely going to go with dud in terms of the roster.
The thing that I say dud or like he has the hardest matchup is a lot of the things that I thought Finn had this split, he didn't. Like his Irelia pick, I thought was his bread and butter. He comes out, it was pretty weak. The Tryndamere games, he's diving on tier 1 against Hirit, getting the
itemizing weirdly.
And he had an amazing Kled game. His Jace is okay. His Malphite game was great as well, but I feel like champion pool has been a bit of a hit or miss for me on Finn because all of a sudden now I'm seeing him play Gnar, and I didn't know Finn could play Gnar. That's crazy to me. I didn't think of him much as a Gnar player, right? So I think draft is going to be very, very important for XL, and just what kind of champions Finn's been practicing. I mean, it's been a long break. Where is he sitting? What's his plan into Alphari? Is it a Malphite angle? Is it a Jace angle?
Before you answer that question, how do XL win and lose games?
Okay, so How do they win and they lose games? So I feel like XL towards the start of the split were very telegraphed about how they wanted to move around the map. I think that actually to categorize XL as a team, you're not necessarily looking at the draft and who their carry players are. You're looking at actually how they rotate a lot of the time. And early in the split, they were pretty much always going for a level 3, level 4 top lane dive. And it was very telegraphed. And if it's telegraphed as liability...
Is this pre or post-Mickey?
And this is pre-Mickey.
Pre-Mickey, okay.
And then post-Mickey, you start seeing them doing a little bit more around the map. They can... I think that the crazy game that we cast when they were against Vitality, that with the Hex Flash jungle against and stuff like that. They rolled with the punches incredibly well. And I don't think that's something that they would have done pre-Mickey as well. I think that they've built on that. I think they've plateaued again in terms of how diverse what they're showing is, particularly in terms of the champion picks. We're going to bring it back into that draft. So I feel like we have two sides of the coins in this whole matchup, where Vitality have shown us more stuff, but they need to refine it. I think XL, however, are more refined at what they're doing, but they need to show us more stuff. And I think that's going to be that's going to be a real sticking point in a best of 5, because you've got to go the length of the series. Best of 1's one thing, but lasting against multiple games against a team of so many strong laners and strong individuals is difficult to do.
And again, experience will once again play a huge factor in my mind in this matchup, because like Caedrel was saying, going against Perks in a BO5 is
it's rough.
difficult because of the impact he has on the entire team. Two smaller sides. Na has been played 7 times by Finn professionally all time. He's only won 2 of those games. So
that's not many wins.
That's not many at all.
And one of them was week 8.
Correct, right? So not exactly known for it. Now let's turn our attention to Vitality. I mean,
quick stats had to come out in the podcast, didn't
standard.
it? I saw you.
We don't have a crappy graphic for it. I feel like I've been robbed of something.
I don't know where the conversation's going. I can't prep for it. Also, huge apologies to everyone listening. I think I banged and touched the mic about 12 times already. I'm not used to this.
So you're the percussion section.
I am the percussion section. Nymaera, Vitality. Hello. I think to everybody's eyes and opinion here, are going to be heavy favorites, right? But let's also be frank. Vitality, let's be brutally honest. Vitality shit the bed versus their expectations in spring.
Very much so. They are the team that has underperformed the most compared to pre-split.
Even in week 8, when I really expected them to stand up and shine, they once again shit the bed, right? So have they shat the bed enough? I'll stop saying after this, and apologies to the producers, to give you any real doubt in this matchup, because I think it's fair to say for the rest of playoffs, there is enough doubt to question for the other teams. But for this matchup, is there enough doubt?
Well, I think that if this was the LCK kind of thing, where you have 3 days to prepare for your first playoffs match or whatever, I would be saying, look, they're out. I mean, at this point, I don't think they've got enough time to turn around a lot of very fundamental issues. With a couple of weeks, though, I think that there's a chance that they can address them and come back a lot stronger.
But that's bold. You're saying with 3 days prep, you would have predicted XL over Vitality.
I would have done the same, actually.
I think
I would say XL would be.
That's
Vitality
way more doubt than I was expecting for that setup. Okay.
Yeah, I think that XL actually, if you took it straight off of week 8, I think that
from
XL,
Wednesday, like we finish week 8 on Sunday, they play Wednesday.
I would have put a 3-1-3-2 to XL. It's not going to be like a sweep, but I think they'd.
I did not expect that.
I think that you give them a couple of weeks though, and I think that Vitality can start addressing some of their longer term issues. I think one of them was something that we brought up mid split in terms of there were a couple of plays where Vitality have clear information of where jungle support are, and they're doing nothing with that information, walking blindly into a play where you'll see. I think it was Astralis when they beat Vitality the first time around. Selfmade was like going to counter gank top, thinking it would be a 2v2, and there's a support there because they just forgot to factor that in. And that kind of issue with information flow, and that, I'm not going to say it's like, their communication's poor, because we can't tell that, right? No. Again, we don't know what's happening in the communication.
What you perceive.
But from what we're inferring, they're not using the information they have particularly well. With a couple of weeks off to actually sit down and say, hey, look, this has been an issue for a while. Let's actually sit down and start dissecting this. I think that there are some big gains they can get with that kind of break. And actually kind of bringing that back to another example of when we've seen this work out was Perks last year in Cloud9. Because Cloud9 last year had some issues within their jungle and their solo lanes combining, and we saw that Blabber did the infamous the Scuttle Crab at MSI versus DFM. Funny how it always comes back to them. But
only for you. Only for you. The rest of the world, it doesn't always come back to them.
Wow, you might be onto something. But with a couple of weeks off before they got into World's Play-ins, they managed to actually have a pretty good glow up at that point. Of course, they still had some other issues, but you can see that. Because there's a rise and fall to a season of League of Legends in terms of how much time and how much effort you got to put in at different points, you're not burning out, and how much you can address. I feel like Vitality at this point have a golden opportunity to address a lot of issues to actually come in pretty strong.
They have 3 weeks now to brush it up, to figure out what they're up to. And if this is not enough time for them to figure it out, then this team is just not good, right?
If they don't do it now, they won't.
Yeah, this ship will never sail if it's not getting out of the harbor now, right? So they need to win this series if they want to show and prove to everyone that these players, this team actually does work, which everyone's been promising. Because this is a team where it's like, if you vote for Vitality in this playoffs, I think you're playing with fire. Actually, I think you're really playing with fire because
just looking at my votes here, just like
yeah, because honestly, there's a very high chance they just don't show up, and I don't know, everything falls apart there. I mean, communication is a very good point they brought up. I think their top jungle communication, the whole split, was just poor overall. Like you have times where Selfmade's going top on Alphari's waves, and there's not much to do there, or he's trying to cover, but the enemy team's got too many numbers there, or they're just losing straight up 2v2s on top side of the river. I remember against SK, they were losing the 2v2s. So they could show up, it could be a quick 3-0, Vitality's back, happy days. Or it could just be Vitality never showed up at all.
Gets going.
I was thinking the bot lane meta thing helps Vitality quite a lot because I don't think they look comfortable in Jinx Felios at all.
Yep.
If that starts to lose priority, I think that XL have done very well on that front. I think Vitality have, they'd be happy if they could play a bit more Ezreal, a bit more other kind of champions around that. So I feel like if there is going to be a meta shift advantage, that goes to Vitality as well in my eyes.
Okay, so now the very, very unenviable task. Stud and dud for Vitality.
I've got to go look through this and think, because each of them could be an argument for this. I feel like Perks is the stud currently for Vitality. It could be him or it could be Alphari, but I feel like
I think it's fair to say this is going to be based on history more than spring. I think that's a defendable statement now.
I mean, if you're going off of week 8, I think Labrov and Perks had a good week 8.
Who's your dud? Good luck, Alex.
I think I gotta say Kazi. I think Kazi, I wanted a lot more from him. I think that, again, he's not flourished in the meta. But is it for this series who's the dud?
It's this series. This series, who's going to be your dud?
Crap. That's
Caedrel's got his answer while you're thinking. I can see it in your eyes.
I think the stud is, it's Vitality's bot lane. It's either, you can say Kazi, you can say bot lane in general, because in this series, I think that's the hardest matchup they have is XL's bot lane. I think Patrick and Mickey is probably, I think you could argue the third best bot lane in the league right now.
They're up there, yeah.
Because they're definitely up there. Stud is probably Perks. It's about time. The thing is with Perks is, we talk about flexibility. We saw Akshan Yasuo games. We've seen Galio, Ryze, Zillion games.
Yep.
We've seen Mage games. We've seen games against G2 where Perks is up 100 CS on caps in 25 minutes, where he's down CS playing Zillion, he's playing Galio, and he's never really in the game whatsoever.
The thing with Perks is that I think you're building up to and sorry to cut you off, is that when things get serious, like they are now in a BO5, Perks is the player that steps up and has done so, almost irregardless of situations.
And that point actually makes me bring back the Fnatic G2 because Humanoid is the exact same. Okay. Humanoid, when the stakes are on the line, he is on it.
Well, your prediction's locked.
But my prediction's not
changed. It can't be changed, bro. You can't flip-flop.
Wow, it's so,
I do not flip-flop.
The air's so nice this side of the screen.
So listen, we're running towards the culmination of our playoffs primer edition here. So let's go predictions. Since I've gone first for all the others, I will go first again. I was extremely shocked at how adamant the two of you were that had Vitality played XL immediately after Super Week, they would have lost. That really, really, really caught me off guard. I also want to say that I've never once bought into the fact that Vitality were a super team. I think the definition was not clearly defined public-wide, so I don't think of them as a super team, first of all. And secondly, even if they were, they've sucked.
Yeah, they aren't now.
They aren't now at all. What I will say is, they have managed to get into playoffs where they can define whether or not their super team success story or shit the bed story is defined over the next few weeks. XL is not going to be good enough to shut them down, and I do not believe in XL's ability to prep to actually stop them. So I think Vitality win this clean 3-0, and I don't think they do particularly well depending on who I'm going to match them up with in the bracket later.
I think that's where our playoffs prediction is slightly different, because I think it's going to be probably a 3-2 to Vitality. Okay. I think this is going to be
I'm going to fill it out then. 3-1. Let's go.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a close cut. I think
so. We know this means they lose, right? If the three of us are predicting a Vitality win, they get eliminated in round 1.
I have a feeling this could go to 5 games. I don't think XL is a bad team. I think like across the board, the caliber players is decent. Their team play is not bad. Their drafting is, I think it's exceptionally well if they're preparing enough. Like they needed to prepare very hard for this series.
Their fundamentals are really good. That's my big positive for them.
Mickey really did upgrade this team a lot. It's like Elden Ring where you get like, the talisman where it gives you like +5 in all attributes. That's basically what or something like that. That's what Mickey X did for them.
We actually I think we shortchanged Mickey versus Perks. We didn't even touch on that. Like
Well, that's a narrative thing. For me.
It is a little bit, right? But like let's just acknowledge that it's here.
Trevor
We won't
loves
spend
his
time in.
narrative.
Of course,
I love narrative too. Actually, now I'm
But
turned
now,
to the
okay,
dark
got
side.
to you.
But now, okay, so we're all leaning Vitality. Do you think it's fair to jump on the Rogue bandwagon here and say if Vitality lose this game, it is going to be at their own hands, or do you think XL can take it from them? Do you know what I mean? Like the perspective of how that can play out.
Yeah, it's on Vitality to lose it. I think
I think-
100% because they sometimes
agree.
burn the stick at both ends, right? Like
Yeah.
they're just going for way too the last time XL played against Vitality, they put their bot lane mid with Vayne Leona, I think it was, and then they hover topside while their Jace is getting full man dove, and it's just I don't know if it's communication or they expected it not to happen. The one question I do have is, let's say Vitality or XL win.
Yes.
Let's say Misfits lose.
Well,
I didn't
if you're
say
going to
that.
do a bracket, okay, I'll hear the question.
not the whole
Okay,
bracket, but
okay, let's hear
who
this.
would be their match 4 opponent?
It depends on the lowest seed.
It would be the lowest seed. Who is the lowest seed?
Because Misfits were fourth.
Okay, so it would be Misfits.
So
correction.
if they lost.
G2 were fourth.
Yeah.
Misfits were third.
So
Yes.
you're telling me, let's say
Look,
hypothetically, Misfits and G2 lose.
We'll build the bracket out. Okay, so now we're moving on. This is awesome. Okay, so we got up just for producers 3-0, 3-1, 3-2. Vitality win was the predictions. I think we'll do only those for now. Now we'll do a quick bracket run out, and then we'll.
Yeah, we don't have to do the whole
brief
thing. I was just
debate.
curious who Vitality could play in
So
the
the
first
way
round.
that it does work,
If
whoever
we won.
is the lowest seed from the upper bracket loses, which means G2 is the lowest, then Misfits.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was Misfits, if it was the lowest, because I thought to myself, surely they weren't.
So
fourth,
I'll try to build this out, and I'm gonna ask Nymaera if you can write this down because I made it a visual aid here.
Yeah, I've
said-
done my bracket. I'll do your
I said
guys' one
Rogue
too.
are going to beat Misfits,
Yeah.
right? So that Misfits going to go down. I also said G2 are going to beat Fnatic, right?
Okay.
So that means I will have Misfits on the first round match in round 2.
So you said that who would beat G2?
G2 beat Fnatic.
Okay,
Yes.
right.
So in
you've
the upper
got-
bracket, I've got Rogue versus G2,
Yep.
right? Then in the lower bracket, it would be Misfits versus Vitality.
You got Vitality XL.
Oh, we're trusting the child to write.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My handwriting is very bad.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
25.
Still a child.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
halfway to 70, gents. That's how old I am, okay?
Okay, so you've
Okay,
got...
and then I would have so then that matchup, will be Rogue G2.
And you've
Oh,
got...
fine.
Yeah, you've got Rogue G2
For
on the upper
podcast
bracket.
land, they're drawing
And you've
out
got
their thing on the notepad.
Misfits versus Vitality.
And
yeah, and
Trevor is screaming
unfortunately
it all out.
to podcast viewers.
I'll hold it up to the camera so at least...
This is so hard. We probably should just do this off-end graphic instead. Okay, I'm going to say that Misfits will beat Vitality. Yes?
Misfits will beat
Okay.
Vitality.
Correct. And they will then face off against Fnatic.
Fnatic, yeah.
Yep. They will lose to Fnatic.
Okay.
Then Fnatic will run the gauntlets.
So who's winning out of Rogue G2? Because that's what...
Rogue beat G2 and are in the finals.
And then you have
And then
Fnatic
Fnatic run the
G2
gauntlet.
again.
And I say
Okay.
Fnatic wing Spring. And my logic and my reasoning for this, I think they are the best team in our brackets. I do think there's their own ego that could trip them up. It'll happen in round 1. And then they get serious, get angry, and run the bracket. But G2 take third.
I think we'll make a graphic for these predictions to make it easier. But I think a better way we could do it, just say, if you had to say one team to win the split, who would it be?
Yeah, that was smart. That was smart. You can see I don't do this a lot. I've said Fnatic. You've heard my
I just
horrible...
saw-
Wait, can we just show this?
All I could
Sure.
see was
Oh my God,
drawing
sorry.
all over
Yeah,
these
there we go.
notepads. Like,
So this oh my, this is so bad. So this is
You see that, yeah.
this is my one. This is Trevor's, and this is my.
Do you think I'm going to get invited back?
yeah,
do you think so?
definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope
So
so.
I'll see you again. What's this gonna?
You guys can come back on it. Maybe when COVID's gone, we can have like a 5-man euphoria.
So the question was, who's going to win? Who's your one team and why?
I think it's Fnatic. Or is it?
Or is it?
No. All of my different thought processes are starting
The
to
fun
clash
part
now.
of predicting before you see them in playoffs
Correct.
whatsoever.
And
Exactly.
don't know what
It-
they're going to do with the patch.
No.
All the bubbles.
Because so I think that just to kind of
Give
flash
me a
out my
team
bracket
first. Team
again.
first. Team first. Team. Pressure. Team. Who wins?
Fnatic, sure.
I'll say G2.
You make it seem
I'll say
so. You make
G2.
it sound so easy.
Yeah. But,
where-
well, I mean, you've got nothing to lose. You don't have to overthink it, right?
That's true.
You have
Where
very
is
little information.
I'm going to ask you, where is the doubt in Fnatic winning? And
Meta
where is the
change.
confidence in G2 winning?
It's meta change. It's whether they can still use all of this groundwork they've set to play around bot lane. Is that actually going to be applicable in playoffs?
I think G2 is the one team who can actually play topside really well. And when they're
Very
doing
true,
it, they play
yeah.
the best out of all the teams. And is playing topside the best right now? Probably not. But with this meta shift, is playing topside the best? Maybe it could be.
Find out.
So it's a bit of like a risky pick, I would say. But I think
You've gotten really good at hedging your bets in prediction games.
yeah.
Well done.
Well, it's weird
like
because
it.
normally in these like in the bets and all the bets we do in Euphoria, I've lost every single one apart from this XL one. So maybe 2022 is my bounce back year for
That's
the
the
bets.
first time it's on playoffs as well.
Yeah.
And we sold them out. Okay, look, that about does it. We've had our time, had a bit of fun. I hope Dracos gets well soon. Caedrel, thank you for letting us join you.
It was a pleasure.
Happy birthday once again. Congrats on a badass tattoo.
Thank you.
You.
I love the haircut.
Thank you for. I'm trying. I'm going.
I haven't had one.
He does look like Henry Cavill. I do think you do.
I appreciate
A little
that. It's such a lie, but I will take it. Very excited to cast playoffs. Of course, they do start this Friday. Wherever you're going to be watching, lolesports.com. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Peace.
Yay.